Katleen Maes is the Human Mobility Hub lead for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Joins me now live from Brussels. Katleen, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. I know you've said the situation in Sfax is unfortunate, but unsurprising. Why unsurprising?
I think we've seen growing tensions for a few months, particularly since what happened in February when there were statements by the government on the fact that there are irregular migrants in Tunisia. It's important to note that not all people from foreign origin are irregular in Tunisia. There's a lot of students, a lot of people who work in Tunisia in a completely regular manner, and of course a fair number of people who have sought international protection against conflict in their own countries.
Why do you think, I mean, you mentioned that there are, of course, many migrants who are not in irregular situations, but why do you think there's so much disinformation about migrants in Tunisia?
I think first and foremost, we need to also take in mind that a lot of Tunisians are now being very friendly and display solidarity and support to migrants in Tunisia. Migrants are also, and refugees are not one unified group. We are actually looking at quite a multitude of nationalities, and we do see that there's a difference in how people are treated. In general, people do not have enough information about what the difference is between a refugee, an asylum seeker, regular migrants, or people who find themselves for a variety of reasons in an irregular situation.
You mentioned this solidarity that you've seen between Tunisians and migrants there. Can you give us some examples of what kind of things you've seen?
What we've seen is that, for example, migrants are now afraid to access services. They're afraid to take public transportation. So we do see networks of community volunteers making sure that people can go to their appointments, often to find legal documentation or to have life-saving treatment so that they can get there safely. We do see a lot of initiatives for people providing food or housing, temporary housing to migrants or refugees and asylum seekers.
You mentioned the housing. Can you tell us a bit more about the living conditions for migrants in Sfax?
Living conditions for a good percentage of migrants and refugees in Sfax, but also elsewhere, are quite dire. They have great difficulties obtaining regular rental contracts, affording decent housing. So they do tend to try to find support within their own community, which can lead to community tensions if there are large groups of a certain nationality in one particular place. I think it's very much a discussion also with the Tunisian communities kindly hosting people who are in very difficult situations to make sure that there is great mutual understanding between what the Tunisian community or Tunisian hosts expect and what migrants can actually contribute to this community.
Katleen, tell us a bit more about Sfax itself. It's the second biggest city in Tunisia. It's very industrial. Why is it such a hot spot for departures to Europe?
I think its presence close to Europe is one of the reasons for it. It lies along a transit route, so it is not only used by migrants of other nationalities, but we're also seeing an increased number of young Tunisians moving from the south to the coastal areas because of exactly the same reasons as other nationalities crossing the Mediterranean: lack of opportunities, lack of information on which regular migration routes are possible. So in essence, we're looking at a large group of people who are trying to find a way to have a better future, noting also that Libya is, of course, extremely dangerous from a human rights point of view. So people do see Tunisia as a safer place.
A safer place, yet with these incredible tensions in Sfax that have pushed dozens of migrants now either forcibly evicted from the city or forced to flee on their own. Do we know more about where those who have fled have gone?
Some of the people that have fled have gone to Tunis, the capital, to have their documents regularized. Some of them are trying to look for opportunities to return back home. Others are going with friends and relatives. Unfortunately, we do not know what happened to all people and where they're going. We're concerned that there might be people who are pushed over the borders, people who might be in detention. So there's a number of concerns.
Katleen, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. Katleen Maes, the Human Mobility Hub Lead for the Norwegian Refugee Council.